evening. Welcome to APTN National News. I'm Melissa Ridgen. An Ontario Superior Court yesterday extended injunctions against a group of Six Nations land defenders. Today, the 1492 land-backed camp in Caledonia was strategizing their next move. They've been occupying a construction site in opposition of a housing development project since July. Carl Dockstader says it's unfair that Skylar Williams has been named the sole defendant. Dockstader says the court is ignoring Indigenous law and believes it will move forward no matter what they hear from the Haudenosaunee.
That's what's been complicated about this entire matter, is that the courts don't acknowledge that Indigenous people have any real standing. The only mechanisms that the justice put forward yesterday were internal court mechanisms and internal Canadian government mechanisms. The Haudenosaunee people are sovereign. Our laws exist outside of the Canadian body politic, and the sooner that everybody recognizes that, the faster a resolution will come.
Today, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced federal funding is on the way for schools in First Nations communities. At an announcement in Toronto, Trudeau committed $112 million for First Nations to help send their kids back to school safely. This comes after the Anishinaabe Nation, which represents 49 First Nations in northwestern Ontario, criticized the federal government for failing to respond to requests for supplies and funding. Ottawa also announced $2 billion for provinces and territories under the Safe Return to Class Fund. While schooling is the province's jurisdiction, Trudeau said this amount is supposed to be used as a top-up.
We've made this funding flexible, so provinces and ultimately schools can use it for what they need most, from hand sanitizer to remote learning. On top of this new funding, we're also investing $112 million in schools in First Nation communities. This money will help those communities safely open their schools with proper supports for students, parents, and educators.
In response to that funding announcement, Anishinaabe Nation says it's unfortunate the federal government waited until days before classes are set to begin to announce this much-needed funding. In a statement, NAN Deputy Grand Chief Derek Fox said there has been very little engagement with communities regarding back-to-school preparations. Fox says that educators, parents, and students are now forced to scramble to prepare, and adds that the entire school year could be in jeopardy for many students. Alice McKay is a mom of four and herself is a fifth-year education student. And with the focus now heading on back to class, we talked to her about the stresses as a parent, but also as a future teacher. She joins us from Winnipeg. So Alice, we're winding down the days of summer and back to school is fast approaching. How are you feeling about sending your four back to school in a week?
I think scared is a good word. For a number of reasons, but mostly scared because of the mental health effects that come from, not knowing the effects of being infected with a disease that's already killed over 800,000 people worldwide. Scared of the mental health effects that comes from feeling like you have no power agency, that you have no control over the choices and decisions with regards to your children.
I think that sums up pretty well how most of us are feeling as we look to sending our kids back. You yourself, you're in your fifth year of education, you're learning remotely, but by this time next year, you're going to be a teacher facing back to school yourself. So what do you think will change, if anything, I guess, between now and then about how teachers teach?
I don't know. I don't really know.
Do you think you'll be in a classroom?
I guess if I choose to, right? Yeah. At that point, like, I would have a choice. I thought about that question, and I just don't know if there's a really good answer for it. What I was going to say though is that what I do know is that it's a really bad time to be a teacher right now. I can't speak to the other provinces or the territories in regards to the plans that the provinces and territories have put out for the back to school plan. But in Manitoba, I mean, I can't speak to Manitoba, and what I can say about that is that it's, I think it's highly irresponsible It contradicts the protocols issued by public health and the government. And I would even go as far as suggest that it violates the human rights outlined in the United Nations in their report about COVID-19 and human rights. More specifically, our right to life and the duty we all have to protect life.
Lots of parents are apprehensive about sending kids back, and instead they're saying that they want to homeschool. I'm sure you've seen it on social media as well. And you have some thoughts on that, hey?
I do. I do. I am certainly one of those apprehensive parents. Based on statistics, over 600 kids across Canada could die from COVID-19. And I think that the comments across the various social media platforms raise some very serious and valid questions about how civilized or lack thereof our society is.
What you said too about, there is a difference between homeschooling and what we did during lockdown.
Yeah, that's the other thing that I was going to say, is that, because we had talked about this just earlier, is that what we did in the spring is not homeschooling.
Right.
That was remote learning, right? So the teacher is still the teacher, and then parents just have to make sure that their kids are doing whatever it is they need to do. So I think a lot of people don't maybe know what homeschooling actually is.
And for those who do register, so you have to register with a homeschooling association in your province, I understand, and there's very specific curriculum that's lined out that you have to do. For the people who do choose to do that, so this is very different than remote learning and just kind of taking what the teacher tells you to do and making sure your kids do it. This is assuming the role of teacher. For people who do decide to do that this fall, venturing into teaching roles probably for the first time, what advice do you have to those brave souls, I guess?
Plan ahead. It's a lot of planning. I get frustrated. It's okay to stop. Because, like I said, we were doing remote learning in the spring, but because I'm now a 5th year education student, I know what I have to do to homeschool and be a teacher. I would say just be on yourself. If you get frustrated, take a break, plan ahead.
Well, we thank you, and our thoughts will be with you when your kids go back to school and you yourself go back to school. You've got a lot on your plate, 4 kids and yourself all learning. Thanks for taking the time to chit-chat with us. I hope that some
no
parents
problem.
find this valuable too.
I had a lot more things that I wanted to say, but the whole idea of going back to school has been so incredibly awesome.
Yeah. Yes. I think we all can share with you in that. Thanks so much, Alice.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay.
Okay.
We want to hear what you think about sending kids back to school during this pandemic. Share your thoughts with us. You can send your emails to news@aptn.ca. You can find us online at aptnnews.ca and on youtube.com/aptn news. You can also follow APTN News on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for more Indigenous news. First Nations on Cape Breton Island have come together to create an Amber Alert-like system. This comes on the heels of a missing 14-year-old girl and how the situation was handled by police. We get more from our colleagues at CTV News.
By phone call, text, or email, residents in 5 First Nation communities in Cape Breton will soon be able to receive alerts from their local representatives. It's a new system that comes at a time when issuing an alert is at the center of controversy in the case of a missing 14-year-old teen.
I think it's something that's been necessary for quite some time now.
The RCMP did not issue an Amber Alert in relation to the missing teen. Instead, they sent a localized emergency alert 7 days after the girl was last seen by family.
I've seen things happen in our communities versus mainstream society where, helicopters were and ground search and rescues were there instantly, where ours, a different story was told.
The Mounties say in this case the missing teen did not meet the criteria for an Amber Alert, which included being abducted. As CTV first reported on Monday, 47-year-old Darcy Doyle was charged with abduction of a child under the age of 16.
At the beginning of this investigation, strong evidence suggested that the male and the missing youth were in the Cape Breton area camping, and we do not believe that they were leaving the area.
Doyle remains at the Cape Breton Correctional Centre while he awaits a bail hearing tomorrow. Meanwhile, Jennifer Jesty, who is the Emergency Management Coordinator for the Union of Nova Scotia Mi'kmaq, says they will no longer have to depend on authorities and can make their people aware right away.
It was disturbing. However, I'm sure the RCMP have their own guidelines and specifications on sending out an alert. And hopefully going forward with our communities in this system, we're going to be able to send out those alerts a lot sooner.
Meanwhile, the RCMP say they are in consultation with senior officers of the provincial government regarding alerts issued to Nova Scotians. Kyle Moore, CTV News on the Member 2 First Nation.
That 47-year-old man who's charged with abducting a Mi'kmaq teen appeared in court by telephone today. In addition to the abduction charge, Darcy Doyle now faces 2 new charges of resisting arrest and obstructing a peace officer and a charge of assault. Doyle remains in custody pending a bail hearing next Wednesday. The teen was missing for over a week in Cape Breton. A caribou herd that's been protected from hunters for 40 years is now fair game, but a First Nation in the area worries what that will mean. We've got that story after the break. First, here's a look at the weather for the east and central parts of the country. On the east coast, we've got sunshine in 21 in Fredericton, 19 and sunny in Charlottetown. 13 in sunshine for La Grande River, Nain, rain and 10 degrees. Sept-Îles, 12 and some showers. Quebec City, sunshine and 17. Ottawa, 19 and sunny. North Bay, rain and 20 degrees. 21 for Sioux Lookout and Thunder Bay, some showers expected there. 16 and showers for Norway House, Pockettawagan, 15 with a mix of sun and cloud. 26 and sunshine for Winnipeg, 27 and sunny in Dauphin. Estevan, some showers and 26 degrees. 19 and showers for North Battleford. 19 and showers for Buffalo Narrows. 16 and showers up in Stony Rapids. Welcome back. After a 2-decade-long hunting ban, the 40-mile caribou herd on the border of Alaska and the Yukon is now accessible to hunters. But as Sarah Connors tells us, the First Nation in charge of managing the herd are concerned that permitting hunting now could jeopardize the animal's future.
There are several caribou herds which roam between Alaska and Tronda-Gwich'in First Nation territory in the Yukon, but many of those herds are worryingly small. The 40-mile herd once numbered over 500,000, but only since this year has the population been considered stable at 84,000. This summer, the Tronda-Gwich'in harvested the caribou for the first time in over 20 years. The Tronda-Gwich'in are waiting on a herd management plan from the government before they allow outside hunting. But on August 1st, the Yukon government issued a limited license summer harvest, totaling 160 permits. Chief Roberta Joseph says this is in violation of their treaty agreement.
There's a lack of respect there, and the government needs to step back and understand that there is a guideline in Chapter 16 objectives that stipulates that or outlines that we work together for management of resources for fish and wildlife within traditional territory.
In January of this year, the government also issued another license hunt of the 40-mile herd without consulting the First Nation. While the Tronda-Gwich'in are in agreement with an eventual hunt, Chief Joseph says more consultation is needed, something she feels the government is refusing to do.
Now we have to also learn as adults how to harvest the 40-mile caribou again, and because we haven't done it for so long, that we have to regain all of that ourselves as well.
Mike Suter is a biologist for the Yukon government. He says the hunt went ahead in order to continue the health of the herd.
When these herds get large, what tends to happen is they start to overgraze and trample their habitat and start to damage it. And that damage can have longer term repercussions for the herd. So when they start to get larger in population size, we see their health start to deteriorate. And then typically what will happen is a quick decline right afterwards.
Suter says he can understand the Trondikwichins' frustration, but says the permits don't violate treaty agreements.
We've structured a very specific hunt to ensure that we're not impacting on Trondikwichin harvesters, because that was something we've heard right from the very beginning, was this concern of bringing a lot of hunters in, crowding out First Nation hunters, and we want to make sure that didn't occur.
But Chief Joseph says without a herd management plan firmly in place, it's only a matter of time before history repeats itself.
We've never seen populations of caribou or others decline when there's a no harvesting recovery program in place.
And for the Trondikwichin, there's more at stake for properly managing the herd.
It's a way where our youth will have bonds with family members and elders. It's important for us to ensure that we continue to maintain a high respect for our land, traditional foods that we harvest, and pass that down.
The Yukon government says it's close to finishing the herd management plan, but can't say when it will be finalized. Sarah Connors, APTN National News, Whitehorse.
The candidates are all in place, and in a little more than 2 months, voters in the United States will have their choice counted. It's currently convention time, and there have been a number of interesting guests deliver speeches over the past week. For more on the U.S. presidential election, we're joined by Mark Trahant, the editor at Indian Country Today. So, Mark, the nominees are now in place. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris for the Democrats, Donald Trump and Mike Pence for the Republicans. What are your thoughts on the Democratic and Republican tickets?
It's going to be very interesting. It was really interesting to see the two conventions. The Democrats were very methodical about inclusivity. In fact, in the roll call of the states, they had several states represented by Native voices. Introducing their states, they had many speakers, from Representative Deb Haaland, who's a member of the Laguna Pueblo of New Mexico, to just across the board. The Republicans, on the other hand, had one representative, but Navajo Nation Vice President Myron Leiser. But other than that, it's been really quiet in that sense.
I'm curious, what's kind of the split typically in Indian country in the States? Are there some staunch, traditionally Republican nations out there versus others that are more traditionally Democrat? Can you give us a little bit of insight into that?
Sure. Overall, the vast majority of Native voters would be Democrats. But you look at some states and you get a variation on that. For example, in parts of Alaska, there's a strong Republican bent. In Oklahoma, there's places with a strong Republican bent.
And what's at stake for Indian country, depending on who gets in office?
There are a variety of things. Federal policy is shaped by the people that follow the president, particularly the Secretary of the Interior, but other offices. In the Obama administration, there was a White House Nation Summit that involved really all of the 500 plus tribes. With the Trump administration, it's been very much smaller, more energy focused rather than across the board with tribal governments.
Last week there was the Democratic convention. This week it's the Republicans' turn. The top two elected officials in the Navajo Nation, as you had said, have spoken each in favor of different parties. Are they hedging their bets, or is there an actual real divide within the Navajo Nation that you guys are reporting on?
No, we've been reporting on it. He was basically picked for the ticket to bring some bipartisan nature to it. So it was not a surprise from the beginning that he's been Republican. From social media, though, the outrage has been really interesting because Navajos probably are 90% Democrat, even more so than most tribes.
Yeah.
And in fact, when Arizona votes, they often wait till the Navajo vote comes in because it can change elections.
Oh, wow. Okay, so we're a little more than 2 months away from Election Day in the U.S. What are you going to be watching in the time between now and then?
Well, this year is going to be just so different. It's going to be, usually you're talking in the high 20% range for mail ballots. This time it could be 60, 70, 80%. Some of the ballots are actually going in the mail on September 5th. So we're talking about an Election Day really a week away, a little more than a week away. And I think how people organize around mail and remote balloting will be really the question to watch, and to see how each party gets its turnout based on that.
Well, exciting for sure. We'll be watching from north of the border. And thanks for taking the time, Mark. I know you guys are super busy. Thanks for taking the time to chat with us.
Happy to do it.
Remote learning just got more accessible for some First Nations students. We're going to tell you how after the break. First, here's the rest of tomorrow's weather forecast for the west and the north. To northern Alberta, we got 20 and sunshine for Grand Prairie, 18 in showers for Fort McMurray. Edmonton with some rain and 20 degrees, 25 in sunshine for Medicine Hat. 27 and sunny in Penticton, Bella Coola, 19 with a mix of sun and clouds. Smithers, 18, sunshine. Sandspit, 15, and showers. Some showers for Beaver Creek, 14 degrees, but sunshine and 14 in Whitehorse. Fort Simpson, 19, mostly sunny skies, 17 and some showers for Yellowknife. Colville Lake, 12 and sunny. Paulatuck, 8 and some showers expected. Baker Lake, showers and 13 degrees, 10s for Whale Cove and Arviat, showers there. Igloolik, 14 and sunny. Arctic Bay, some showers and 10 degrees, and Joe Haven will be 1 with mostly cloudy skies. Welcome back. Students at Alberta's Alexis Nakota Sioux Nation will have 50 more laptops to study with during the pandemic. The recycled laptops were donated by the nonprofit Electronic Recycling Association and Shell. 5 projectors and 5 printers were also donated. Councillor Darwin Alexis says the computers will help students if COVID forces them to return to online classes.
It gives the kids access to the internet and all the resources that it provides in regards to research and educational purposes.
That's all the time we have for your news tonight. If you missed anything, you can get up to speed on our website, aptnnews.ca, or get the APTN News app for your smartphone so you know what's happening as it happens. I'm Melissa Ridgen. Have a great night.